very good evening to you. Welcome to the FKFPL Review Show. My name is Robinson Okenya. In studio, I am with Cedric Musumba and Roger Shtemi. And in tonight's edition of the FKFPL Review Show, we'll be talking about what next for footballers after the government suspended all sporting activities. In a bit, we'll be speaking to Gor Mahia captain, that is Harun Shakava, to tell us how they are coping with this suspension of sporting activities and whether this will give them time to look at themselves and probably come back better when football resumes in the country. And of course, I want to get some views from my guests before we get into the thick of tonight's show. Roger Shtemi, we went over the weekend without watching a Football Kenya Federation Premier League match for the first time in 2021. Of course, this is after you take out the international weekends.
Nobody saw that coming because everybody was prepared for the continuation of the season after the international break. But unfortunately, we were all caught flat-foot by the announcement by the president, who said that all sporting activities in the country must be suspended until further notice. As you are aware, most footballers, most sportsmen depend on their disciplines to cater for their families as well, for their daily lives upbringing. But unfortunately, as things stand right now, nobody is enjoying the situation. Though, as we said in the previous show, Corona is there with us, and we definitely have to know how to handle ourselves during this scenario. But also need to think about the situation, or rather the environment other people are going through at the moment, because without these sporting activities, it is so difficult for the sportsmen, and more so for those who are used to going to the field to report, as well to watch for the few people who are allowed. But all the same, I believe it is time for the government to rethink about that decision they made, because if you keep on maybe pushing people, or rather letting people not to play the game they love, it is also going to be difficult for them maybe to focus on what is going to happen next. Because you understand, as we stand, there'll be the World Cup qualifiers in June, and most of the players who have been featuring in the AFCON qualifiers are local-based players. And thanks to the competitive level and the activeness of the FKFPL, these players were able to showcase some good footballing during their match against Egypt and Togo. So this is the time I think the federation should continue engaging the government, so that in the next few weeks or month, we should get back into action.
Cedric Musumba, what are your thoughts now that we went a weekend without having the FKFPL match? And remember, we were already in round 16. We were almost approaching the half mark of the league.
It's an unfortunate situation to soccer lovers, and I'm alluding to that basically based on people would have wanted to see how the league, the team will come back from their national duties and try to settle and maybe continue from where they left. For instance, it was a very big blow to those teams that actually thought that it was their time to surge on and try maybe to earmark some spaces, and more so those who are challenging, had gained the momentum of challenging for the league. Also, there was some instance whereby those teams who are fighting the relegation, they had started recollecting themselves and trying to surge slowly away from that relegation battle. But then again, as Rogers has likely alluded on, Corona is here with us. There are some parameters that we would have tried as much as we can to actually set, so that we allow the league to continue under those kind of parameters. For instance, of no doubt, if at all the league would have been allowed to go on a certain principles, e.g. if the president would have maybe asked the team to keep on testing their players before each and every match. Also, I request the federation not to allow in any other extra spectators into the pitch, not unless if you are part of the technical bench, and also a certain number that has already been tested and ascertains to maybe attend to those particular matches. And Robbie, let us not cheat ourselves. We need also to actually come to factualization that sport is one of the key employers in any given economy. At the moment you stop sports from running, government cannot employ everyone or every citizen in its own capacity across the world.
Yes.
If sport is stopped as it is right now, then the economy starts facing the wrath. I think it's high time we think about it. The government think of avenues that really gives it support in terms of employment, and they try to actually realign it and correct where they think they did not actually do their research well, and allow this thing continue running. If you go by all the youths that we have been talking about, who are the highest employer of this particular youth? I don't think it's the government, because the government will go for the scholars, and scholars actually, they don't mature at the age of what we refer to as youth, maybe at the middle stage of their youth age. But sport employs these youths at their tender age. At the age of 16, somebody has started earning something from sports. At the moment you stop this particular thing that we are talking about, sport, is like you are killing economy slowly, and this will have an effect to the face of the government. It's high time government goes back to the drawing board, put in place some principles, and allow the sports to go on. To the fact that these are the citizens who dependably rely on these sports to get certain thing on the table to surge and support their family, dependably on these sports that has really been stopped at this particular time. Age and time.
Yes, of course, gentlemen, in a few we'll be listening to what Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa has had to say about the suspension of sports activities and in particular football in the country, and what FKF as a federation is doing to probably make sure that football is back. But at this point I wanted to speak to Gor Mahia captain, that is Harun Shakava, and we wanted to know how the players are coping with this suspension. Welcome to the show, Harun. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yes, let's get into this. I mean, you are leading one of the biggest clubs in East Africa. How are the players coping with this suspension of sports, and in particular football in Kenya? How your players are coping?
Okay, it's tough for us. Since that time that they announced that the sports activities are not going on, that's been tough. We have never seen each other. So things are really tough. We just communicate by the group, but they're just training, home training, maybe, and some gyms, small gyms where they are open, and roadwork activities, but things are very tough.
Remember earlier on when we spoke on phone, Aaron, you said that you were from the gym and you are resting at home. Now, this individual training, is it as effective as team training?
No, I think this individual training is just to keep your body fit, but that coordination between all the players in the team to make a good team is very difficult for now. Just to make your body be ready and be fit, but it's not the right way maybe to train. That should be just the extra.
Right condition. Of course, it's not as cohesive as it should be. Now, Aaron, Gor Mahia is 7th on the log at the moment. Do you feel like this suspension of sports gives you time to, rethink what you had not done well in the 14 games that you played? That now, if the game comes back to, rather, if football comes back to normalcy, we'll see different results.
No, I think it will not help us, because at least we could be training together, having time together, sharing our weaknesses maybe in training. But now you see again, yes, it stopped. Maybe it can give us a momentum maybe when we come back, but you're not training together. So it will still be tough. But on the 7th, it's not us alone. Maybe even Tafka, they are there. They started gambling a bit, I see the league is not even gone, because we still have second leg. So I hope if things will be okay, they open up. I think we can push.
Like the suspension came at a wrong time when you guys were picking momentum.
Yeah, it came at the wrong time, because we now started building the team. We had confidence right now from the game of Big Goal, the game that we won. So we were psyched up. So again, they stopped. So we start at 1 again.
Now, before, of course, we move away from COVID, what has the club said regarding, this situation in the country? Are they in talks with the federation to know what the federation is speaking, rather if it's in communication with the sports ministry and the government in general?
For there, I hope you can just get the right time, because us, even you can shout, can do anything, but we wish even the federation will help the players, because it's difficult now. Even you can't pay the salary, because even you're not working. Yes, their contracts, and Kenya see most of them, if they are not working, maybe you see like Gor Mahia, there's no funds even, money is tough to get, you see. So I just hope the federation, that's the right channel, can help us, because the government say like that, but the federation can push, and the players, all the players maybe, and all stakeholders can help at least to talk to the government, maybe to assist us, because it's our job, and now we don't have a job, we are just there. So houses, house rent, foods, and what, maybe.
So, Aaron, of course, football fans in Kenya would want to know, I mean, you played in Zambia, you came back to Gor Mahia. Right now, you are the captain. How does that feel, leading Gor Mahia at a time when people feel like this season probably may not be as successful as the last two seasons?
Yeah, it's a big challenge on that. It's a big challenge coming from Zambia, coming to Gor Mahia when they are down there and given that role. It's difficult, but at least you are building a team, and the coordination, at least talking to players like this in Gor Mahia, we do like this and this and this, and they are catching up. Even you saw the last game that we played, at least we played better. But that challenge will make us push, because we have a good team. We have young players there. So I just hope that challenge and push us. Maybe if the league continues, or next season maybe we'll have a better team.
Aaron, before I let you leave, Rogers Eshtemi has one question for you. Eshtemi.
Hey, Aaron, a quick one. Maybe, do you think maybe this is one of the best teams you have led, or rather, how can you compare the current squad with the teams that you have captained before? Remember, you have won a couple of titles as a captain while at Gor Mahia before you went to Zambia. How can you compare the current squad with the previous teams you have been with?
Okay, in our team now we have young players. They're talented. Most of them, the best of Mashari, Alpha. They're young players and talented. The team is changing. You see, there are changes in the team. So comparing the time I was in Gor Mahia, we had an experienced team. We were played together like most of 5 or 6 years together. Now the team are changing. Players are moving. Others are coming in. So that continuity maybe is the one that is lacking maybe in the team. But for now, I think if they just play the game second leg, maybe next season, maybe we'll have a good team and we don't lose good players again, maybe.
Of course, thanks a lot. That is Harun Shakava, who's the club captain for Kenya, the defending champions, Gor Mahia. Thanks a lot for your time, Harun Shakava. Of course, we are looking forward to seeing whether football will resume soon. Right now, I want us to listen in to what Football Kenya President Nick Mwendwa had to say about what the federation is doing to probably have football back in the country soon. Let's listen in.
Na akanieleza kwamba tumwandikie, atuombee ruhusa, tusaidiane kwanza, tupate ruhusa tukuliko kiwanja as soon as possible. Leo tunamwandikia. La pili ni kwamba tu vaccinate players wetu. Kila mchezaji kwa ligi apate vaccine. Tayari sisi tumekuwa tukiimplement protocol ya fans, hakuna kwa kiwanja. Kwa hivyo hapo hatuna shida. Mahali kuna shida hapa kwa vaccine, tu vaccinate. Alafu sasa tukubalishwe kwa kiwanja, ikiwezekana wiki 2 kutoka sasa turudi kwa kiwanja. Na kuambia leo kila mmoja wameniambia kwamba shapata barua ya sponsor tayari, hawatalipa huko. Tayari mdhamini mmoja wa ligi ametuambia hatolipa. Leo asubuhi. Kumwambia mambo ya pesa, ametuambia hatalipa. Kwa sababu sasa ameongeza analipa na hata ajui tunarudi kucheza lini, atalipa kwa nini. Mwingine klabu amenieleza kwamba wameandikiwa barua leo akaambiwa huu mwezi hatuwezi walipa, hatujui mtarudi. Waona sasa tayari hao ni sponsor wawili. Na ni siku moja tu. Sasa hebu uona next week tukijaribu tuambiwe hao wachezaji wote kulipa nyumba. familia, chakula itakuwa ngumu.
Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa speaking right there on the talks he has had with the sponsors and also the talks he's had with the sports ministry on probably how the resumption or rather when we will have football resume in the country. Gentlemen, I want to bring you into this, and let me begin with you, Cedric. What do you make of what Nick Mwendwa has had to say about the talks of having all players vaccinated before, resumption of sporting activities?
I think Nick Mwendwa speaks as if we were in the same meeting before we started this particular show.
Yes.
He's actually picking from our thoughts and trying to share what we have just discussed before you brought in Shakava for an interview.
Yes.
This is one area that everyone should know. It's an open area to everyone to see. These are players who are mature enough, who have families, and who also need to surge on with life. These are people whom had really assumed this role as if it is their role number one in terms of employment.
Yes.
Now it has come to an end. These other basics that he's mentioning, including the rents, accommodation, what have you, putting food on the table.
Yes.
These are the things that basically each and every person work for. And those what makes people to go out there and try to look for a living. It's a composition of what we can summarize as a living in a natural scenario. And I think by the virtue of him speaking that sponsors are now withdrawing, sponsors are now stopping even writing letters to teams or clubs and federation that they are not in a position to sponsor simply because of the uncertainty and they don't know if that particular league will come back again.
Yes.
It is quite unfortunate even to the ears of these players, because if they happen to hear this, they will get demoralized. Look, what will happen to these players? They will start now surging or moving away from their primary role, which has been training, and they will start now looking for other avenues to get in money to at least allow them continue with life.
Yes.
And what does that mean? It means if they go out to look for money from other avenues, they stop training, and then their form will deepen.
Yes.
If their form deepens, even the national team will lose the as in the standard that it has really attained, basically based on the league that was really running. And when they come back, remember, we are just less than 2 months away from our World Cup qualifier. These are the same players that the national team is really relying on as the feeders. If they stop training and they start looking for other avenues of getting money, what does it mean? They will have no national team to represent at that stage or that arena. And I think it's high time, as he has said, even if subject all this player to a job, they go get their job and come back to field. But they can come back to field, as I said earlier, with certain conditions. Conditions that we have seen these things happen, not necessarily only in Kenya. Right now, we are just from a weekend watching European League continuing.
Yes.
Does it mean that in those Europe, also if I may mention Britain, does it mean that they don't have other variant of COVID? In fact, they are in the lockdown, but their league is still going on simply because they have put in place some measures that league is following to the latter and has not stopped that. And maybe they have seen and assessed and realized that their economy still relies on those kind of sport continuing, because the government, which is one of their first world countries, their government still cannot support sports rightfully. And that's why it's allowing the sports at least to continue and continue supporting those lads and the youth that are really depending on it. It's high time we think about it, as Mwendwa has said. It's high time we come back, the government come back to salvage the sport arena by trying to put in place measures that will allow sport to continue and get these lads earn a living that will make them at least also survive in this particular turmoil that we are facing.
Shlemi, I know you want to add on to that, on what Nick Mwendwa said about writing to the ministry, and earlier on spoke to officials from Football Kenya Federation, and they say they wrote to the ministry, but the ministry is yet to reply to the letter. But first, before you give your thoughts, let's listen to what Nick Mwendwa had to say about Kenya's World Cup qualifiers fixtures that came out. Remember, we're only 2 months away before Kenya takes on Uganda in the first fixture. That will be on the 5th or 6th of June.
Tumekuwa tukifanya kazi, tunakwenda juu. So sasa huu wakati tumekuwa na focus poa sana, kwa sababu tumecheza friendly mbili, zilikuwa zile 3, lakini kukawa na kifo cha President Tanzania. Kwa hivyo mechi ya 3 tukaitoa, so tukashinda, tukacheza Tanzania, tukacheza South Sudan, tukashinda zote mechi na vijana wa hapa nyumbani, local players. Ilikuwa muhimu sana. Mimi nina hakika kwamba barring hii mambo ya kufungua ligi, tukiendelea na hiyo njia na hiyo focus na hiyo seriousness, na Sinela hapa mbele hawa vijana watafanya mambo hajawahi kufanyika katika Kenyan football miaka iliyopita. Pia sisi tuandike historia, wao pia waandikishe historia, kwa sababu ya World Cup haiko mbali, kwa 5 hours away kutoka Kenya. Kuna kazi ya kufanya kubwa kuwezesha hao vijana kuwa wako ready for World Cup qualifier. Kwa sasa kuna window kuanzia 30th May mpaka 15th, I think 15th and 18th of June. Tunafaa kucheza match day 1 na match day 2 ya FIFA World Cup qualifier Qatar. So sasa within 2 months tunarudi.
Within 2 months.
Hii mwezi wa 4, mwezi wa 5 mwisho tunarudi. Na hii sasa ni ile kubwa.
Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendo speaking right there about Kenya's chances of making it to the FIFA World Cup 2022. Roger Seshtemi, let me bring you into this. I know you still want to talk about what Nick Mwendo said about players getting vaccination before football resumes, and also combine it with what he said about Kenya qualifying for 2022. But if we are to qualify, definitely the league has to be on.
Actually, as for the vaccination idea, that's a good move. And we'll, of course, give them kudos for that. We hope it's going to happen so that we get back to the field and continue to see, watch, and do what these athletes like doing. But as you are aware, sports across the world is the only thing that is giving hope to these people through this pandemic period. Because you understand, like my colleague Cedric has said, yeah, without sports, things will have been worse. But look at what is happening in Europe and even some of the African countries. Yes, the pandemic is there, but they are trying to give themselves some hope through them allowing sports to continue. And I believe it's only through sports continuation that maybe we can defeat this pandemic. But if maybe we sit back and say that we are not allowing sports to continue, it's going to be so difficult and things are going to be more than worse. But for the national team, maybe preparation for the World Cup qualifiers, it is my hope as well that the national team and the federation learned some lesson from their participation in the last 2 qualifiers, because from that qualification campaign, it's all on how you take your home matches, how serious you prepare for the home matches. I believe we have a chance for the World Cup qualification, but it's not a celebration time because that will only be the 2nd round. And I believe after the end of the 2nd round, 10 top teams in each group will qualify into the 3rd round, which means the 3rd round will be between the top 10 teams, home and away between them, 5-5 between them. So the winner is the one who will qualify for the World Cup. So it's not yet, maybe we shouldn't be celebrating too all about this World Cup. We need to prepare and try to bring out the best of our players at this arena. But it will depend on how maybe our league will be. By that time, if we still not have resumed the league, then it will be a bit more complicated for Kenya. Because most of these players who will be in the national team, as we have looked on the last 2 matches, have come from the FKFPL. So the more active the league is, the best we can, maybe we can get good performance during the World Cup qualifiers.
Cedric, your thoughts on that World Cup qualifiers before we take a look at how different teams had fared on before sports was suspended in the country?
I look at that given pool that Harambee Star is in round 2 of World Cup qualifier. Remember, they also have another round after they have, if they manage to come out of this 2nd round. It is not that easy as people might really think it. Given that we have a derby, East African derby, and more so, I may say that there are 2 derbies because we have Rwanda in it and also have Uganda. At any given time, Kenya has faced Rwanda. Rwanda, you see, they play they surge to an essence of upsetting Kenya. Similarly to Uganda. Uganda, they play with an essence of pride in it. It's a pride kind of battle. And that has never been easy to Kenya Harambee Star. And more so, we have now one of the top-notch, I may say the Africa top-notch team currently as it is, given how they really played in Africa Cup of Nations. Remember, in Africa Cup of Nations, they featured with a very young squad that has really now matured with age. Those players are now trading in one of the biggest clubs in the world, and they are ready to come back and try now to earmark their space. Also, they will be looking for their, I think, first World Cup ever, if they happen to go through. And I'm talking about Mali,
yes,
which has one of the most young, talented African players currently as it is. And it is not as easy as people might think. I think, as Rogers has alluded, it's all about preparation. And you need to prepare knowing the soldier ahead of you. Remember, the war is not won at the battleground, but it's won depending on how you prepare and which kind of the arsenal have you acquired. We are talking about the contemporary kind of war, a conventional kind of war, whereby, depending on the arsenal that you have, gives you a competitive edge against your opponent. And the arsenal we are talking about right now, it's all about the player and how you prepare this particular player. We have seen that Kenya, if we name a squad predominantly from our local league, currently as it is, they have started giving us results as opposed to the previous teams. That means our league has peaked at some level, and it has started giving us what we used to lack before. But then again, it will only depend how consistent this league will be. Will it continue the way it is if it doesn't really remain active? The answer rightfully is no. We need to know how to manage this particular league, how fast we come to this particular league, and how we assemble this team. Okay, somebody might argue like, already you have known the squad, you can keep the squad and try playing maybe with the friendly. But then again, those avenues for friendly are not that open simply because the team are in still lockdown. I don't think if the team currently it can be allowed even to invite any other team in here for a friendly match, simply because sports is not going. It's a precarious situation that need to be worked on. I think the ministry should come to come into fore to save this particular phase that we are facing right now, and try to bring back the accolade that we have been working hard to look for. Group World Cup qualifier group for Harambee Star is not a rosy. There is no actually easy path as people might think, because the first match we're starting with Uganda here at home. If we don't win it here, then we'll call it as if we'll just kindly switch it off and we forget about World Cup qualifier. We need to start as we can to win all our home matches, given today how we have performed towards Africa Cup of
Robbie, I also think maybe from how these fixtures were released, they have somehow favored the Harambee Stars. Why am I saying this? Because look, the first match they are playing, yes, that's just a derby, and it is a tight one, because remember, Uganda will be coming to this game after the frustration of not going to AFCON for back-to-back AFCON, because they were also eliminated just like Kenya. So it will be a difficult one for them. But the reason I'm saying it is a fair one for Harambee Stars is because the most difficult team in this group, that is Mali, they have a back-to-back tie. That will be, I think, in October or September.
So that's after Kenya faces Uganda and Rwanda. Then so, Mali back-to-back.
Yeah, so that gives them a chance, because back-to-back is always a very tricky affair. Remember how we blew our chance to Comoros?
Yes.
That is why it was. So this will be a moment for us also maybe to make it difficult for the Malians, because Malians are the favorites of this group. But by chance, if the three East African teams conspire very well, then one of them can find themselves into the next round of the competition. And who knows, maybe Uganda, Rwanda, or Kenya might be in the 2020 Qatar World Cup.
And Robbie, the good side of it is that we are facing Mali at the end of the competition, which means if we calculate very well and we prepare very well tactically, we happen to collect all the points against Uganda and Rwanda, we will be facing Mali knowing that we have certain accumulative points. And that will be just now a decider to World Cup qualifier.
Cedric, I want to quote you. These is words you used when we were having a conversation before the show started. Football is like an exam. If you don't study, you won't pass. So, Let's move on. Let's go to where the league was before football was suspended in the country. And gentlemen, let me begin with you, Eshtemi. Tusker was the team that was at the summit of the Football Kenya Federation Premier League. 36 points from 16 matches played. And with sport being suspended indefinitely, we don't know if it may resume or not. Do you feel like they're currently stuck in a quagmire? Having in mind that this was the year other football fans felt that this was the team that was going to, upset the form book and take over from Gor Mahia.
Absolutely, it will be really disappointing. Bear in mind that they have put a lot of energy. They have been the form of their lives. They have been trying to grind out results when things were not working for them. But now things are here. It is stuck. The league has been suspended. And they were really maybe praying and hoping it can come to an end, or maybe it could have been suspended maybe after the midway half of the table, but that is not the situation. Remember, if things remain like this,
yes,
as per the FKF rulebook, then the league will be null and void. And that means there will be no champion and no team will be relegated or promoted.
And also no team will take part in the CAF competition.
Maybe that's now a legal part of it, because maybe it can be argued that Gor Mahia were the deposed champions. So they can maybe, by virtue of being the former champions, they can represent the country. Who knows? That is depending on how maybe we try to interpret the FKF rules and regulations. That is it. Yes,
Cedric, briefly, do you feel like if we go back to football, if the league resumes, will this momentum still be with this Tusker side? Remember their last game, it was a 2-2 draw with City Stars. They had to come down. They had to come from 2 goals down to settle for a 2-2 draw.
Robbie, I think we have tried with you trying to walk around and see if these teams during this particular lull, if they are doing their training. And again, even Shakava has come and confirmed to us,
yes,
no one is training. This actually gives you a no from the question that you have asked me. Today says that no team will come back as it was before the league was halted. Simply because, one, players are not training. And when you don't train, as you have just quoted me, if you don't prepare for exam, if you don't study, don't expect any positive result from your end. You will struggle. And that's why you will start inviting what we used to call those days Mwa Kenya. And this time round, these are physical and a practical entity whereby you don't have anywhere to refer to. Remember, your reference is based on how you have trained and equipped your fitness. If you are weak, you will end up losing terribly.
Yes.
When this league resumes, I'll tell you for free, Robbie, we will start from where we were at the beginning of the season. Remember, we used to castigate this particular league very hard, and we were hard on them. One, I'm on record telling you that I wasn't even, for the first 5 matches, I wasn't so prepared even to sit and watch, because it was not that flared. There was no those passes that I was looking for. If I was trying to compare this league and other leagues that I was watching to, it was nothing that could have really convinced me to start watching. But after round 5, they started now coming back and start giving me the value that I was really looking for. That's why the league started producing the likes of Danny Sakari, if you remember, the likes of Mazembe, the likes of David Owino. Those were being produced at the round of 6.
Yes.
And that tells you this, when the league started, these lads were not that physically fit and tried to give us the flair we are looking for. They could not really trickle passes. I remember sometimes Sichenje could barely control even a ball, and I mentioned and I alluded it here. But as the league proceeded, he started, and even sometimes he was really being scouted for Greece. It means if we continue like this, when players are not training and they remain there, they will go out, start looking for other avenues for survival. They will forget about training, and by the time they are coming back, they will have actually retrogressed. And the result they will give us, it will not even the result even to give Harambee, the national team, the value and the challenge for where they are surging to.
Robbie, actually, in essence, the suspension is going to affect the fitness level of these players, because right now they are just relaxing in their homes, in their houses. Maybe once in a while somebody do some individual training, but it's not that way effective as they could have done, like in a team training, just like what Shakava said. So that's quite challenging, and you'll find maybe some of these players have to change their diet. You find they'll be adding a lot of weight, and it's easy to add weight, but really a hassle to try to shed that weight. So I believe maybe by the time we resume, just like what Cedric has said, the momentum will have calmed down. And the likes of Tusker, the likes of AFC, KCB, who have maybe be on the top of the league at the moment, they'll start maybe not posting those results that we are used to, because that time they'll be like they're starting a new preseason. And by the time they catch up, maybe those teams who are struggling, the likes of Zoo, the likes of Western
Mathare,
Stima
Vihiga,
and
Western
Mathare
Stima,
and
yes.
Vihiga, maybe this is their moment. It's a reprieve because they were not doing well, and it's now time for them to rethink and relook at themselves and try to see where did we not do right for this particular moment. Let's take the opportunity and maybe try to make things right. I remember I watched the City Stars game against Tusker, and prior to that, I think we had a 1 week break or so.
Yes.
And their performance in that match just summed up what can happen after the resumption of the league, because they were not themselves. They really struggled in the first half. Yeah, that's how City Stars caught them flat-footed, and they managed to score very quick 2 goals via Kimani. So that is just a mirror of what can happen if we prolong with the suspension, because generally by the time you get back into your former best, then it will be too late, and who knows, maybe other team will have already run away with the title.
Now, Cedric, of course, we were taking a look at some of the top 5 teams that we have and whether this momentum will be maintained. And let's talk about FC Leopards and in particular the coach, that is Patrick Osims. And we saw on social media he said that he's traveled back to his country. And he said that he got the COVID-19 vaccine and he will be coming back. Do you feel that he might be back? We've seen there has been a trend that when a foreign coach travels back home, then a very big likelihood that he will not come.
The hopes of Leopard fans is to have Osim back and pick from where he left before the league was halted, given to the results that he has really brought back to the FC Leopard and the spirit. And remember, I talked about discipline. And he had tried as much as he can to bring that discipline that was really lacking in FC, whereby if a player doesn't perform and you vividly see this player on camera, he's not really performing.
Yes.
This is a kind of a coach who could even pull a player out of the pitch. Remember, before Kamura got a red card,
Yes.
I remember him
That's against Mandari.
Yes, alluding that he was about even to substitute him. It's unfortunately that he prolonged and got that particular red card. But he was about to substitute him simply because he was not on form and he was not, and it was really being seen on the face of spectators.
Yes.
I think this high time FC Leopard needs him back. But as you have said, we have seen a scenario whereby coach takes a short stints as a break. They travel back to their country, but they end up not coming. But also, if you look at the dynamics and what has made those coaches not to come back, one has always been a coach who leaves when he's not, he has accumulative arrears in terms of payment. Once who leaves when actually the management is not really ceding to whatever advice that he has been trying to bring into the team. If the management is not walking his path, he will still go and not come back. But I don't think if this is the FC Leopard scenario, I'm still quite convinced that it was too early for Osiam to start raising an issue of management, not really giving him the eluded support that he really needed. And I think by the time he was leaving, I'm also assuming it was not all the attribute of the management, and maybe it was attributed to the pronouncement that was made by the president over the COVID lockdown that really halted the game. And again, as a coach, he also needed maybe to take this break and maybe reach out to the family. But remember, he's a good coach. We have seen what he can do in 3 matches that he has been in control.
Yes.
We have seen what he can bring back to the team and the value and the flair that we have been really looking for.
Yes.
He's a coach that each and every Ingwe fan will like to see him back and continue from where he left.
Well, as we wind up, gentlemen, Ishtemi, what are you looking forward to this week now that will not be having Football Kenya Federation Premier League matches played? Are you going to speak to different players and get probably to know their condition they are in at the moment?
Absolutely. I'll be trying to reach out to most of the players across board, from rugby, volleyball, football, athletics, so at least to see what they are doing and how they are coping up with the current situation. Remember, I've been in this situation before, and I know they have those notes. They'll do what they did during the first suspension, and with the hope and belief that we'll get back into action as soon as possible, because it is my hope, and I have faith that the federations, all federations are trying to work closely with the ministry to see how best they can resume the sporting action, because that's the only hope we have at the moment, nothing else.
Cedric, your message to football fans and sports lovers in general as we wind up?
My message has always been to support local and bring back local. I would love to see Kenya sports in an avenue of European kind of platform or blueprint. And I will urge all sports fans not actually to be diverted by the break that has been taken in the country and start maybe moving away from the local scene. They stick to the local scene, try to speak to these particular players if you can reach out to them, try to support them if you have the capacity, and keep them into the lane and try to make them believe that they will still come back and soldier on, so that we grow our local sport as opposed to us moving away from local to Europe.
Of course, thanks a lot, gentlemen. That is Cedric Msumba and Roger Sishtemi for giving us your insights on, what to expect now that the local league has been halted. This is after the suspension of sporting activities in the country. We'll be seeing you again next week, Monday. That is from 10:30 p.m. to 11:30, where we'll be speaking to different players and trying to take a look at now what to expect, or rather how their journey has been to where they are at the moment in football. My name is Robinson Okenye. Have a good night.